At first light, on the Nam Tien reservoir near Sayaboury, a mahout wades chest-deep beside his elephant, scrubbing the animal's shoulder with a fistful of tamarind bark until the grey skin darkens under the water. In Luang Prabang, around 6 in the morning, during Tak Bat, a woman kneels on a bamboo mat and presses a small handful of warm, sticky rice into each bowl held out by a passing line of barefoot monks. On the Bolaven Plateau, 4,000 feet on old volcanic soil, a pair of hands drops red coffee cherries into a plastic pail, one branch at a time. This is Laos, landlocked in mainland Southeast Asia, home to roughly 7.5 million people, and once the center of Lan Sang, the kingdom of 1 million elephants and the white parasol. The elephants that gave the kingdom its name now number a few hundred, and beneath these calm green fields lies the wreckage of the most heavily bombed country per person in the history of warfare. What follows crosses 2 royal capitals, a river of working giants, a volcanic coffee plateau, a plain of ancient stone jars, and one shared basket of rice. The climb up Mount Fusi begins in the dark, 328 steps rising over Luang Prabang, and at the summit, the early sun spreads across the Mekong, while the roofs of the old royal capital surface one by one out of the river mist, their gilded stupa tips catching the sun before the streets below have found it. For 6 centuries, this was the seat of kings, the heart of Lan Sang, and later the Kingdom of Laos, a city so dense with temples that all of it was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995. And yet, the monarchy that raised these roofs was abolished in 1975, when the communist Pathet Lao seized power and ended the 6th century monarchy. Its last king was carried away, its palace turned to a museum. The kings are gone. The gold remains. Down the hill, where the Mekong meets the Nam Khan, stands the temple where those kings were crowned. Wat Sieng Tong, built between 1559 and 1560 under King Settathirath, lowers its sweeping roofline almost to the ground, and on its rear wall, a mosaic tree of life gathers the early gold into thousands of colored mirrors. It survived the 1887 raid by Hor, or Black Flag fighters from the north, whose attacks followed the disorder of the upper Mekong frontier and left much of Luang Prabang burned. It holds the memory of a line that began 2 centuries before its own walls rose, the line of Phar Num, who unified the scattered principalities into a single kingdom in 1353 and gave it a name meant to last: Lan Sang, the land of 1 million elephants and the white parasol. Outside, before the town wakes, the line of kings gives way to a line of monks. Barefoot and single file, robed in saffron that reads almost brown in the blue-grey light, they move down the street with alms bowls slung at the hip, and along the pavement, the lay people crouch low over their reed mats and press small handfuls of sticky rice into each passing bowl. This is Tak Bat, the dawn alms round, and it feeds hundreds of monks in Luang Prabang every morning. Roughly 2/3 of the country is Theravada Buddhist, and young men still ordained for weeks, for years, for a lifetime. The monarchy ended almost 50 years ago, but this procession has not missed a dawn. Follow one handful of rice past the threshold, into the cool dim of the temple, and the whole of that national faith narrows to a single pair of hands. Three sticks of incense press into a bed of cool grey sand. A thumb steadies a candle, smoothing the soft wax at its base until the flame holds level before the Buddha's feet. There is no ceremony to it, no audience, only the small, practiced motions of merit-making, done before work, before a journey, before the turning of a season, the same motions a grandmother taught with her own hands. "220 kilometers to the south-southwest, the faith stands taller. In Vientiane, the capital the kings moved to when Seta Thirath shifted his throne down the Mekong, rises Phra That Luang, a gilded stupa 45 meters high, its 3 tiers stepping toward a hard blue sky. It is the most sacred monument in the country and its clearest emblem, printed on the state seal and on the banknotes passed hand to hand in every market. First raised in the 16th century, sacked, left in ruin, and built again, its surface is dressed in gold leaf, weighed out in kilograms. The throne moved here. The gold moved with it. The devotion never broke. The gold of Phra That Luang is weighed in tons. The kingdom's other treasure was once counted by the million, and every one of those was an elephant. The count begins in the grey hour. Above a reservoir near Sayaboury, in the forested northwest, the elephants come down to the water, and a keeper stands on the bank with a clipboard, marking each animal as it steps out of the trees. Six centuries ago, the exercise would have been absurd, in a kingdom named for 1 million of them. Today, the whole country holds only a few hundred domesticated elephants, and a similar number in the wild, and every year, the deaths outrun the births. At the Elephant Conservation Center in Sayaboury, co-founded in 2011 by Sébastien Dufilot and the biologist Gilles Morer, the herd that once named a kingdom is counted by hand, a ledger rather than a legend. A cow carries a single calf for close to 22 months and may raise only a few across 60 years of life. Against arithmetic that slow, one bad season in the forest becomes a loss the animals cannot make back. Down at the river, the count gives way to something gentler. A mahout wades into his waist beside a broad grey flank and scrubs at the hide with the coarse side of a coconut husk. And the elephant rolls into the current, draws water up its trunk, sprays its own back, and then leans, slowly and deliberately, until its full weight rests toward the man. His bare hand presses river water into the cracked skin behind the ear. Along the folds, the sun never reaches, and the animal lets out a long breath and holds still for it. The Lao call this bond Quan Chang, the shared soul of a handler and his elephant. And it is not sentiment, but biography. A mahout and his animal may work side by side for 30 or 40 years, longer than many marriages. And in the old families, the same elephant passes from father to son the way a paddy field or a wooden house passes down, one name learning another across a lifetime. Then the bath ends, and the work begins. Chains draw taut, a felled log lurches and drags through the leaf litter, and the mahout rides the great neck, steering by a spoken word and the press of a heel behind the ear. For generations, this was the elephant's trade, hauling timber out of country too steep and too soft for machines. And the strength that once carried kings to war was rented to the logging camps by the day. But the machines have arrived. The reachable forests have thinned, and a government ban has narrowed commercial logging. So the working giant is increasingly a worker without work. Its old job gone, and its keep still owed each morning in some 300 kilograms of fodder. Some now carry travelers along the rivers. Others move to the conservation centers, where their labor is simply to go on existing. Once a year, the province turns out to honor them. At the Sayaboury Elephant Festival, tens of thousands gather along a parade lane where the animals stand decorated in rows, blessed under a canopy of chanting, photographed and fed, while loudspeakers raise money for their care. It is billed as a celebration, and it is one. It is also a census with banners. The cheering is real, and so is the shortage it applauds. Whether a festival for a creature now counted in the hundreds is a homecoming or a leave-taking, no one along the route says out loud. They parade the giants once a year, under drums and cotton flags. Far to the south, on a plateau 4,000 feet above the river, a different harvest comes in every single dawn.
The plateau begins where the heat lets go. Climbing south and east out of the Mekong towns, the road lifts onto the Bolivan, a broad shoulder of old volcanic rock, some 4,000 feet above the river, where the dawn air turns cool enough to want a jacket. In the ground underfoot is the dark red of soil that was once molten. The name belongs to the people who have farmed these highlands longest. Bolivan means the home of the Lavan, one of the dozens of ethnic groups scattered across the Lao uplands. And what the old fire left them is the reason for everything that grows here. A deep, mineral-heavy earth, folded into ridges and washed by more than 3 meters of rain in a single year. The French planters who governed Laos into the middle of the last century read that soil correctly. In the 1920s, they set coffee into the Bolivan, Arabica for the cool heights, hardier Robusta on the slopes below. The colonists withdrew and the estates changed hands, but the bushes stayed in the ground. Most of the coffee Laos sells abroad still grows up here, on this one tableland, tended by small holding families working a few hectares each. A sack of dried beans is loaded onto a pickup at the farm gate and carried down the same roads that once brought the seedlings up. At Pak Song, the town near the plateau's center and close to 1,200 meters above the sea, the harvest sets the calendar. From the tail of one year into the first months of the next, the cherries redden branch by branch. The picking is done the slow way, by hand. A pair of fingers moves along a single bush and closes on a cherry only when its skin has gone fully red, twisting it loose and dropping it into a pail slung at the waist, leaving the green and the half orange for a later pass. It is particular, unhurried work. A whole tree emptied a handful at a time across the weeks, and back at the house, the day's pick is spread to dry on a raised patio, raked by hand each morning until the beans rattle loose inside their dried skins. The same rain that swells the cherries gathers at the plateau's rim and falls off it. A short way from the town, 2 rivers throw themselves over a cliff as the Tad Fan, a pair of ribbons dropping something over 100 meters into a forested gorge. The spray hanging in the cool air above a canopy that has never been cleared. The plateau makes its coffee and its waterfalls out of the same weather. The height and the rain that would punish a lowland crop turned here to advantage. Back in the town, the whole business returns to a single glass. Lao coffee is brewed thick and dark and poured over a finger of sweet condensed milk settled at the bottom of the glass, then stirred up from the base until it turns the color of caramel. And it is drunk slowly at a low roadside table while the morning's pick is weighed and bagged a few steps away. The plateau that grows the bean also drinks it, 1 glass at a time, at the pace of the harvest that fills the pails. The Bolivan's old fire cooled long ago into a soil a farmer can bless. Far to the northeast, On another high plain, a newer fire once fell out of the sky, and the ground there has not finished giving it back. North and east, the land climbs again to a high plain where the earth keeps two kinds of memory. Across the meadows of Siang Kuang province stand more than 2,000 great stone jars, some as tall as a person and heavy as several, cut from sandstone and granite and set out over the grass in scattered clusters. Archaeologists place them in the Iron Age, more than 2,000 years old, and still cannot say for certain who carved them or why, though the strongest reading holds they were funerary vessels, the stone cradles of a people who buried their dead on this plain long before any Lao kingdom had a name. In 2019, the Plain of Jars became the country's third UNESCO World Heritage Site, its largest cluster on a low rise outside the town of Phon Savan, holding more than 300 jars alone. But the grass between the jars does not lie flat. It rises and falls in shallow rings, soft green craters where the ground was thrown up and fell back. And these scars are far younger than the stone. Between 1964 and 1973, while war burned across the border in Vietnam, the United States ran a secret air campaign over Laos, much of it aimed at the supply routes threading through the eastern provinces and the high ground of Siang Kuang. Across those 9 years, American aircraft dropped more than 2 million tons of ordnance on the country, in some 580,000 bombing runs. That comes to a plane load of bombs every 8 minutes, around the clock, for 9 years, without pause. Laos became, and remains, the most heavily bombed country per head of population in the history of warfare. And a great deal of it came down here, on this plain, among these jars. Not all of it went off. A large share of the weapons were cluster bombs, each casing splitting in the air to scatter hundreds of small sub-munitions the size of a tennis ball. And a great many of those never detonated, settling instead into the paddy mud and the forest floor to wait. "50 years on, they are still waiting. More than 20,000 people have been killed or maimed by this leftover ordnance since the last bomb fell. Many of them farmers turning soil, and children who took a small metal ball for a plaything, and only a fraction of the contaminated land has yet been cleared. Teams from the National UXO Lao program and the British-founded Mines Advisory Group work the fields on foot, meter by meter with detectors, a task measured not in years, but in generations. Even the famous jar sites had to be swept before visitors could walk among them. And the safe ground is still marked by small concrete posts, white on one face and red on the other. A step to the wrong side of that line is a step onto uncleared earth. In Phon Savan, the plain's main town, the war is not kept behind glass.
Old bomb casings stand at the fronts of houses as fence posts and planters. The aluminium of downed aircraft is beaten into spoons. A cluster bomb canister, cut open and emptied, holds a doorstep row of spring onions. A woman sets one such spoon beside a bowl of rice, and the metal in her hand began as part of a plane, but once passed overhead to loose the very ordnance that scarred her fields. The plane has taken the war into its kitchens and made it carry food. Above the buried metal, the rice still comes up green each season. And when the noon heat settles over the plain, the farmers of Siang Kuang set down their tools and gather, as families gather in every province, around one open basket in the middle of the table.
By midday, the work stops for the one thing every table in the country shares. In the baskets of the highland farms and the lowland river towns alike sits sticky rice, khao niao, steamed in a cone-shaped bamboo basket set over a pot of water until each grain turns translucent and clings to the next. Laos eats more of it per person than any nation on earth, well past 150 kilograms per person a year. And it is grown twice over, in the flooded paddies that run along the Mekong lowlands, and higher up on cleared hillsides where the same grain answers to the rain instead of the river. It is not spooned onto a plate. It is lifted, rolled, and eaten by hand, at breakfast and at dusk alike. The one fixed point in a day that otherwise changes with the season. At the low table, a hand reaches into the shared basket, pulls off a lump of the still steaming rice, and rolls it against the fingers into a firm ball. A thumb presses a shallow dimple into one side, and the ball is dipped into a fierce pounded chili paste that sits at the center of the meal, or used to pinch up a flake of grilled river fish or a spoonful of minced meat salad. No one takes a private portion of rice to keep. The basket stays in the middle with its lid off, and every hand at the table draws from the same weave of bamboo. The meal measured not in servings, but in how long the basket holds out against a hungry family. This is where the country gathers itself into one room. The lowland Lao, the largest of the nation's roughly 50 ethnic groups and about half of its people, share the basket with highland cooks, whose language and dress are entirely their own. And onto that shared rice, the whole map is laid down. Coffee carried off the Bolaven Plateau, fish pulled from the Mekong, chilies and herbs from the kitchen garden, beans and bitter greens from the hills. And beside the food, in very nearly every case, stands a heavy brown bottle. Beer Lao has been brewed in Vientiane since 1973 by the state-linked Lao Brewery Company from jasmine rice grown in the same lowland paddies that feed the meal, and it pours at tables from the capital to the smallest district town, holding the greater part of the home market against every import that tries the border. Highland bean and lowland grain, river fish and capital brewery, festival elephant and morning monk.
The whole of the country that these chapters have crossed meets, at the end of the day, over a single basket of rice. The basket empties slowly, passed hand to hand, and refilled once or twice, until the light drains out of the sky above the river, and the talk outlasts the food. Nothing at the table stays labeled highland or lowland once the eating begins. There is only the rice, the hands, and the long, unhurried evening. Then the country sleeps. The pots are set to soak, and the grain for the next day is left to swell in its water through the dark. Before 6 the following morning, on a Luang Prabang pavement, a rice giver settles onto a reed mat, lifts the lid from a basket of warm grain, and begins the round again.
Night arrives first at the low table, where the shared basket sits open, and the last thumbprint of rice is pressed into chili paste before the lid goes back on. The elephant is somewhere upstream by then, counted without ceremony, and the monks who received takbat before 6 have left their bowls to dry. To the south, the last light holds on the gold of Pa That Luang. On the Boliven, the day's cherries lie drying on their patios. On the plain of jars, the clearance teams pack up their detectors and log the meter they reached today. The kitchens go quiet. In 1,000 bowls, tomorrow's rice is already swelling in its water, waiting on a dawn that has not missed one yet.